Hello and welcome, my fellow Americans, to the Appleby Hour. Now, the last video was about how a civil war is unrealistic. It's Fantasyland nonsense. Civil War 2 is canceled, guys. Sorry. I know it's kind of a bummer. We all wanted to, we wanted a sequel. The first one was so good, so bloody. I mean, I love the gore. Uh, but no, in all seriousness, that's nonsense. What is not nonsense is a fascist takeover. Here's the difference. Here's why one is possible, the other is not. In a civil war, you need multiple factions, military factions that can war against each other. I feel like that's kind of obvious. I don't know why that needs to be said, but apparently it does. And in the United States, the military is thoroughly unified. There's no chance of it splitting in two, at least for right now. Like I said in that last video, maybe in 20 years. We'll see. We'll loop back around. but, fascism does not gain power via violence. Fascism gains power by taking legitimate channels, and then once they're in the position to create law, they make it impossible for themselves to be removed. But it's always legal. It always starts out, and I mean, truly, it never stops being legal. They just change the law. They just alter what it is. And certainly, we have expanded the scope of the presidency to a point where it is entirely possible for a president to make these changes. Now, that being said, the key to any coup, any takeover, any power shift is the military. Like I said in the last video, the state is, like, by definition, the thing that has a monopoly on legitimate use of force, legitimate violence. That's what it is to be a state. And it's what makes them powerful. It's what gives them their legitimacy. Political power flows from the barrel of a gun, at least right now. And so if you want to take over the country, you need to win over the military. Who's the head of the military? It's the executive officer. It's the president. That's the tippy top. So in order for a president to take over, what he needs to do is he needs to convince the top brass that it's a good idea. He needs to get them on their side. And then they also need the courts, and they need a Congress that's favorable to them. And then once they have that, they should be able to just totally get rid of democracy. It's entirely possible to democratically remove democracy. I think any democracy that would prevent that is not really a true democracy. If democracy doesn't have a fail condition, then I think a democracy that you don't have to actively keep alive, which doesn't really exist, by the way, but by design you have to keep alive, is just, I don't know, it comes off to me as, I don't know, what's the word? You know what? Forget it. The point here is that fascism always uses legal means to gain power, and then once they are in power, they change the law so that no one else can come in and remove them from power. That's how it always goes, and it can happen here. So we do not need to be worried about civil war, at least right now. If civil war is on the table, we have got bigger problems. That means that there's been a breakdown in our federal structure. There's been it's societal collapse, essentially, is what is required for civil war in the United States. It's a prerequisite. Fascism can happen any old election, and I don't know. Our democracy sucks, but I would like to hold on to it and kind of improve it so that it no longer sucks. I think that would be ideal. I think that fascism is avoidable and that we ought to avoid it. So here's my problem. Right now, the big threat of fascism The near threat is the Republican Party. Trump kind of nakedly tried to incite an insurrection from his crazy followers, and it was ill-conceived. It was never going to work. It was total nonsense. I mean, just blundering, stumbling idiocy. But it doesn't change the fact that it was attempted. Like, like just because you're stupid and you attempt a murder, that doesn't like exonerate you. It's like, well, you see, my client is totally incapable of committing a murder. Just because he tried doesn't mean he could have succeeded. Okay, whatever. Still attempted murder. You're like, I'm not gonna let that slide. So that's the immediate threat, but it is not the only threat. Eventually, and I've talked a lot about this, the migrant crisis that climate change will cause, there will be hundreds of millions, I mean, billions of people knocking at our door being like, hey, America, Mother Nature kicked me out. I need a place to stay. And if we say no, they're not going to listen. I mean, it's happening now. You see people illegally crossing the borders, and people are like, oh, well, they should do legal ports of entry. It's like, okay, well, they won't let them in. Okay, they need to cross illegally because they don't have any other choice. They're fleeing devastation, and that's only going to keep ramping up as the years go on. And eventually, it's going to get to the point where we're just going to have to start like industrialized killing. The options are either we let them in and we deal with the consequences and do the humane thing and try to take care of them, or we do a genocide. Those are the options. I really want to make that super clear to everybody. Those are the two options for the migrant crisis. We can let them in, or we can genocide. Okay? And right now, both parties are favoring the genocide option. Democrat and Republican. So even if we win, every election is the Democrat from now until a 2100 or whatever. You know what I mean. No, that was right. I don't know why I was so fucking weirded out by that. Like I was imagining a 20 in front of a 100. No, that's right. If we just keep allowing the Democrats to shift rightward on the border, then fascism is guaranteed. Like maybe LGBTQ people will have their rights, but there will be industrialized mass murder on our southern border. There's just no way around it. Either we let them in or we put them in the ovens. Those are the options. Those are the two options. Okay? Like we need to do something with these people. And it's either suffering and death or it's humane life. Real complicated choice. Oh, what are we going to do? Oh my god. All right. So, what do we need to do? We need the left in the United States needs to finally rise up and become a real player on the national stage, because if we do not, there will be genocide. Either that or the Democrats need to have a big wake-up call, or I don't know. I really don't know. And people ask me, it's like, okay, well, how do you even propose we do that? It's like we tried infiltrating the Democratic Party. That doesn't work. We tried pushing them left. That doesn't work. We tried, what are you, a third party? And, I think that there is room for third party activity on the congressional level. And then we can build that up, especially on state and city levels, build from the bottom up, build the party, just pick one. I don't care. Green is good. Obviously, it has good optics on the whole environmental issue, which is the kind of the central crux of this problem. But then there's also the libertarians, which, if they took a leftward turn, could totally rebrand. Basically, it's fresh clay for us to play with. So I'm fine with either of them. If you want to make a new third party, I'm less okay with that idea, but whatever. And then what we do is, I feel like I hear leftists talking about how, oh, the Republican Party is so weak now, their coffers are running dry, like they're all funding Trump's ridiculous legal battles, they're not doing well. And I'm like, okay, so if the Republican Party is weak, wouldn't it be cool if we already had built up the Libertarian Party as a libertarian left party so that we had something to replace the Republicans during their weakest hour? We can come in and be the next half of the duopoly. I agree that a third party, it's never going to be, oh, there's three major parties. But eventually, there have been party swaps and parties die off. It's been a long time since a party's died off. That was mostly in our early history. But we're entering a time of unprecedented chaos. Things are bound to change, and we can take advantage of that change. But we need to build up a party because that is how politics works in this country. Now, if you have some innovative new solution on how to take over the Democratic Party, I'm willing to hear it out. If you have some innovative new solution on how we can force the Democratic Party to do what we want, even though we're not in power, I want to hear that too. But I don't know. It seems to me that we need our own thing and that it is entirely possible to rise that up to the level of national politics. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. Like I said, it needs to be bottom up, right? So we need to run people in cities, on city councils. We need to run in state government. We need to run in the congressional races where we think we actually have a shot. And as we do that, we gain more and more. And we don't ever run a presidential candidate. That's crucial. Until we believe that there's an actual shot, until one of the parties is so disgraced and disgusting and unpalatable that we really think we have a shot of replacing them as part of the other half of the duopoly. Now, I would be fine if it was, leftists versus Republicans or leftists versus Democrats. I mean, obviously, leftists versus Democrats, that's more preferable, assuming that their politics doesn't change too much. Like leftist versus liberal is better than leftist versus conservative, because if you get a liberal, it's like, well, yeah, that sucks. But hey, we can get them next election cycle. If it's leftist versus conservative, you never know if that's going to turn into fascism and there won't be another cycle. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Ugh. So please, no more Civil War talk. Let's focus on fascism, the real, actual thing that is currently a threat. Maybe 20 years down the line, like I said, maybe. I doubt it. Civil war could be a possibility. But let me know what you think. I really would love to hear what you have to say. And thank you for watching.